So without further ado, allow me to introduce our esteemed panel of alumni who are with us until graduating from the program in September of last year. So they will be able to do a better job of introducing themselves than I will. So Mehak, can you kick us off, please?
Thank you, Dan. Hello, everyone. It's great to be here. My name is Mehak, and I am a co-founder and COO of iLoF Intelligent Lab on Fiber. And at iLoF, we're using photonics and AI to develop healthcare and life science applications, primarily focused on screening, developing and validating a screening tool for Alzheimer's disease. At the same time, we've recently launched an application for nanoparticle characterization, research application that's picking up a lot of traction. Great to be here, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you, Mehak. Ed, can you say a little bit?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, fantastic to be here today. And thank you for joining to learn a bit more about the program. So I'm Ed Nutting. I'm co-founder and CTO of VyperCore. VyperCore is developing a new kind of computer processor for data centers, primarily to improve performance and security of processing in a data center environment. And it's based on my research from the University of Bristol when I was an undergrad and a PhD student there. So back in 2023, we raised first round funding of £4 million. So we're really a very early stage business. And we grew to a team of 14 engineers over the last couple of years based in Bristol and Cambridge, so multi-site, 2 offices. And yeah, so recently we launched our Viper Lab kind of early access program, which really demonstrates the performance and security advantages of our processor design for customers to start working with.
Thank you, Ed. Steve, can you tell us a little bit about Adaptix?
Yeah, I'm Steve Wells. I'm Chief Technology Officer at Adaptix. We're a company based up in Oxford. We're doing mobile 3D X-ray systems. So X-ray is the world's most common type of imaging, but the plain two-dimensional X-ray gives a fundamentally limited view of our 3D bodies. It's a bit like a shadow puppet view of the world. Obviously, there are big scanners available, but those are quite expensive. They can't move, and they have various other constraints. So our technology is to provide 3D imaging from a device like this that's gives a low radiation dose, and 3D images from a device that you can move around. So this one was on the Eurostar with me, traveling over to Europe for an install at a hospital last month.
Thank you, Steve. Okay, I'm going to come to you first. What brought you to the program in the first place? What made you interested in applying?
I've been on quite a range of different management courses and kind of thought there wouldn't be anything any great value in doing that, but this the Shott Scale Up course really caught my eye because I thought, wow, that's a whole cohort of people who are in a very similar position to me, and be great for sharing ideas. And you also have mentorship from others within the Royal Academy, and a lot of the sort of good management courses are really quite sort of prohibitively expensive. So to have funding to go on a course as well seemed very attractive, and it seemed like something that was very hard to get otherwise. You can go along to sort of networking events and maybe have brief conversations with people, but to spend quite a chunk of time with a lot of inspiring people doing very impressive things who are kind of in the same boat as you seemed like something that was really hard to get in any other way.
Thank you, Steve. Mehak, does that resonate with you, or were you attracted to something else?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, it was looking at a lot of different accelerators and incubators out there, and finding that quite a few of them did focus on that element of come along, do workshops to practice pitches or network or things like that. And really, the other programs are focusing on the company, whereas the Shott Scale Up program for me looked quite different. It looked like it was focusing really on the individual, with the emphasis on the kind of professional development. And that seemed like it was going to have a much bigger impact in the long run, because you as an individual then project that outwards to everyone around you, rather than having just solved refinement of one pitch deck that you happen to be working on at the time. So really, that kind of focus on leadership capabilities was attractive to me because it enables me to tackle a much wider range of challenges and really a way of thinking, and therefore actually managing different situations and stress and anxiety and all of these things that come with running a startup. I'd add to that also, aside from the structure of the program, I'd pick up on what Steve was saying there about having been surrounded by other engineering companies that are tackling hard problems. Not to name any other programs, but I've been in ones where it's sort of other pizza delivery companies, and they're not really tackling fundamentally hard engineering or technology or science. And so being surrounded by people that really know what it's like to build an engineering team or a science team, research team, whatever it may be, and building up that through those challenges along the way. But also because it's focusing on individuals, the program isn't trying to say you have to be pre-seed or you have to be Series A or you have to be at these different stages, which means that you get our cohort at quite a range. So I was probably from one of the earlier stage companies, and some of the people in the program are actually much later stage, in revenue and growing that way. And that brought a much greater diversity of ideas and perspectives on different things, and sort of also the ability to say, some people could say, well, this is what life looks like after you've got past this step of the journey, which is really, really quite helpful, and not something I saw in other programs.
Thank you, Ed. Mehak, is there anything else you'd like to add with?
I think Steve and Ed really summarized that very well. For me, was the focus on, as both of them mentioned, the focus on engineering, science, and research, and that just made the entire program a lot more applicable to the challenges that we currently have or had been through or are still going through. And so the learnings, they're directly relevant. And then, being able to develop that peer network that, you continue to learn from, and that, continues to give, that I do believe is one of the advantages of this program as well.
Thank you. So Mehak, I'll come back to you. What have you been up to for the past 6 months? You graduated in September. Walk us through.
Lots of exciting things, Dan. One, we are executing a commercial research contract that we were awarded about a year ago. So that's the main focus in the company. The entire company is focused around delivering that, and that's fantastic validation for us. It's our first research contract, so there's a lot of pressure on everyone. So the entire team is all hands on deck. In addition to that, in the past year, there's been a lot of transition in the company. So when I joined the program, at that point, we were trying to figure out how we're going to move from like a more research-minded company that's doing really interesting research and innovation to a product mindset where we're going to be applying that research and those discoveries to actually delivering products that are going to be commercially viable. So, taking that team through the journey, creating the structures, putting them in place so that people can really come together. We have a very cross-disciplinary team, and we had a lot of challenges around how do we make sure that the entire team interacts efficiently enough, so that we get to the objectives and we meet them. So, creating those processes, hiring those people, and then ensuring that we have the right culture, the right mindset. That's what the second part of what we have been focusing on in the company, and the program has been incredibly helpful because it came at exactly the right point for us. The people and culture module was incredibly helpful in just providing with the foundations and getting us to think a little bit about what really culture means, and how do you incorporate that diversity of perspectives into building a culture that works for everyone and gets the most out of different people with different perspectives. So yeah, I believe that's the most valuable part of the program for me at the junction that we were in the company.
Thank you, Mehak. Steve, slightly different question. What do you think the biggest impact the program has had on you personally has been, and potentially also if it's different, what's the biggest impact the program has had on your business?
So yeah, the course came out at a very good time for us because we had a change of CEO and a change in some of our fundamental technology. So I think one of the best things was it gave me, and I shared that with the company, a lot of confidence to keep going. I think as a startup, you can sometimes feel a bit like an imposter where you see all the big companies out there, they're already in the market and you're coming along with your new thing. And you can feel, I'm a bit of an imposter. So it's quite nice to be on a cohort with a whole load of other imposters who feel the same way. And you think, actually, it's quite normal to feel this way, and I'm doing quite normal things, or some of the things I'm doing seem quite good, or I like what you're doing over there. I think I'll copy some of that. So I think that was very, very helpful for me to think more deeply about how we do things, compare ideas with people in very similar situations, as Ed was saying, doing hard stuff. And then you can sort of pick and choose what things you think are going to work for you and what things are going to work for your company, and then share those out more widely.
Thank you, Steve. I'm seeing some nodding heads in the audience there. Ed, same question. What's the biggest impact that you felt this has had on you personally and on VyperCore?
Yeah, wow. It's a big question really to try and pick one thing out, because the program covers such a range of areas. But for me, actually, the biggest aspect that I've got out of it is on me personally. When I joined the program with VyperCore, we'd been going for about 3 or 4 months, and we'd gone from standing start, so just me and my co-founder, to about 9 people in the team at that point. All incredibly talented, incredibly bright engineers. But it had kind of been this big transition from my research in my PhD to now having a team of people working on it and contributing ideas and trying to extract stuff from my brain in order for them to go and implement it and try to figure out the right way forwards, while also dealing with some pretty gnarly challenges with our investors at the time. Just the structure of things and trying to understand board meetings and how those worked. So the problem I really had at the time was I was still trying to control stuff. I was still trying to control the outcome and drive towards one specific thing, whether that was someone in the engineering team doing a specific piece of work, or whether it was a conversation at the board meeting where I was trying to control the conversation. And actually, the biggest thing the program's helped me with through the professional coaching and through talking to others in the group has been switching from that mindset to one of an influence mindset. So one where I recognize that I can't control an outcome, but I can actually influence the outcome by what I do and what I say and how I work with people, both in the moment in terms of how you respond to what's happening that second, but also how you respond to stuff by follow-up or by preparation in advance, if you know a meeting's coming up. So for me, really one of the biggest aspects has been the professional coaching that was initially paid for by the program, and that my company and I have paid to continue for a further year since that. And really just, learning that skill of how to think about the challenges that I'm facing. I'd say it's not tackling specific challenges, it's learning to think about what you're facing and how to get different perspectives on it, how to ask yourself questions to understand how I'm viewing it, but also then understand how others may be viewing something. And that's really, really powerful for me because it enables me to tackle such a wider variety of things that come up. And every problem's new, right? In a startup, you're never going to know how to deal with everything that comes along. You'll never have the experience, especially in a founder role. So for me, that aspect and the workshops and stuff, as Mehak mentioned, the people and culture workshop was really timely for us as well. So yeah, just generally for me, the personal growth and now my stress and anxiety levels are so much lower than they used to be, which without that, I really would have struggled to continue doing a startup at all. So yeah.
Yeah, great. Thanks for sharing that, Ed. Mehak, I know you touched on a little bit about some of the things you implemented within the business, but in terms of personally, what did you feel were the biggest impacts that you got from the program?
So as I mentioned, when the program started, it was a very interesting point in the company when we were going through a bit of a transition. At the same time, I was myself personally going through a personal transition. So I just had a baby, 8 months old when I started the program. And so I was kind of like rediscovering what it is and what sort of leader I want to become. And there was, a lot of things that were going on in the background that were influencing or preventing me from sort of showing up in my best self, as they say, a lot about mom brain, a lot of like a lack of confidence around sort of dealing with very new issues that we were facing in the company, as Ed alluded to earlier. And so, just being in an environment with lots of different people at different stages at different stages of the company. Some of them had encountered those challenges before. All of them, had families, and they'd somehow figured out a balance. That, and then so it really interacting with those people and realizing that the kind of the feelings that I had were all normal in a sense, and so I wasn't overthinking. And it's just about figuring out a way of dealing with those feelings. And then in parallel with that coaching element, Ed also mentioned that earlier, that enabled me to sort of start challenging myself, start realizing where all of those insecurities were coming from, and also just kind of the simple realization that a lot of that is normal and it's okay. Like leadership is a journey, and it's okay to change during that journey. It's okay to change your style. It's okay to experiment with different things, and that every challenge really makes you at the end of the day more resilient. So all of those realizations as a whole enabled me to really handle that transition in both a personal as well as a company-wide perspective. I don't think I think I would have done this without the program as well, but it really, really helped. It made it a lot easier to have that support, not just from the coach, as well as the people who were supporting with the modules, but also just the peers. I remember having a few conversations with different people who were really kind to give me their time. And just kind of that personal advice as well really helped me in a lot of those moments.
That's great. Thank you. So last one for me. I'm going to be brave and assume that some people here watching today are interested in applying and potentially watching back as well. So I'd like to ask the panel what would be their one piece of advice to people who are considering applying. Steve, I'm going to throw you under the bus and call you out first.
Yeah, I mean, it's a golden opportunity, so go for it, really. I think it's access to a very interesting cohort of people, and also high quality training that it's quite hard to get elsewhere. And I think also that sort of idea, it's a bit of a safe space. You can go along to a sort of big public management course, and you never know who's there, and it's quite unusual. It would be quite odd to say, oh, I've got these worries about our technology or our team or something like that, and they think, oh, Adaptix has some concerns. This is not good. You don't feel safe to do that. Whereas when you're in a sort of group of people and it's a safe group who are not going to disclose things, or you're assigned a mentor, you can just sort of say, here's my dirty laundry. I'm worried about these things. Do you have any advice, or how did you address this? And it's quite hard to find that sort of advice and support elsewhere. So it's very, very valuable if you're in that situation.
Great, thank you. Ed, any thoughts, advice to others?
Yeah, I mean, just to pick up on what Steve said there with the Chatham House rules that the group kind of operates under, it's so valuable to have that group of people that you can use as a sounding board and air the dirty laundry sometimes. But my advice really is, if you're looking at the program, be open to learning and challenging yourself, and also to giving to others on the program as much as you listen and learn. So it is a very supportive program, both from the Royal Academy, but also for each other in the group. And whatever stage you're at in your career or in your startup, there is definitely stuff you can learn. There's definitely things you can improve upon. And that's a big part of what the program's about. So have that open mindset. Have a few things in mind that you would like to improve on, that others in the group can help you, right? It doesn't necessarily have to be a specific module in the program that can help you. You can actually recognize the fact that there's a group of people there with lots of experience that can help you. And just so have some of those things in mind, but also have in mind some of the skills or experiences you have that others might benefit from, and just try to convey some of that in your application.
Thank you, Ed. Mehak, anything to add to that?
The only thing that I would add is, if you don't get it the first time around that you apply, do reapply. I think I applied probably 3 times before I got through. So just, be persistent, because this is a really valuable program. As Steve said, it's a golden opportunity indeed.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's a competitive program, so a lot of people will apply. We're more than happy sharing feedback. And so you can iterate, you can improve, and you can come back. And then, as Mehak did, you will find yourself on the program. So that's all from us today in the panel. Thank you for joining us. I will pause the recording for now, and we can open up to Q&A from the audience, because I see there's a few in the chat. But thank you, everybody.